Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first webinar of the EDT Commission. I will say just a few words about the Commission later on. But before we start, I would like to give the floor to the President of UNIMA International, Mrs. Karen Smith. It's a great honor that she is with us today. So, Karen, please.
Oh. Emmanuel, could you ask Emmanuel to make me visible again, please?
Yes, Emmanuel, can you make Karen visible? Yes, I think you are the host now, so you can, yeah, we can see you.
Thank you, Livia. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me. I'm the current president of UNIMA, and it's my great honor to be here. And I think I just want to thank Livia Kroflin and all of your team for creating this wonderful opportunity, this webinar series, which we're all at its premiere today. And as maybe some of you are not members of UNIMA, and I strongly urge you to consider joining UNIMA, and at least going to our website, that's unima.org. But if you're not aware, this is a puppetry organization. We are dedicated to mutual understanding, friendship across the globe. I, for instance, have so many friends. Livia have so many friends because of UNIMA, and these are friends that we have known for decades. It is a wonderful organization, so I strongly urge you to at least look at the website, learn about UNIMA, and ideally join our organization. UNIMA has 15 working commissions, and the Education, Development, and Therapy Commission is one of those. You will find all the information about our commissions and the projects that they do on that website, unima.org. Now, we're here today, of course, to discuss education, development, therapy, and with a focus on how puppetry can be used in those three fields. And so I just want to say nothing more because you've got better things to be saying and sharing together. So have a fabulous first webinar, and I hope everybody is back for the rest of this wonderful series. Thank you, Livia. Thank you, Education, Development, and Therapy Commission team.
Thank you very much, Karen. Before we continue, I would just like to tell you that there will be time for questions, for your questions in the end. So it's better not to put them in the chat because it's difficult for us to follow it, but you will be able to put your questions afterwards. Okay, well, I'm the president of the Education, Development and Therapy Commission. This commission is interested in the variety of ways puppets are used in education, development, and therapy. It connects researchers and practitioners. It shares experience and ideas, publishes books on the subject. We have already published several books in several languages. You can download them for free if you go to the UNIMA website and find the EDT Commission. And we also organize conferences, and we are just starting a series of webinars, which will feature online lectures, workshops, I hope, exchange of ideas, and examples of good practice in all three fields, education, development, and therapy. The webinars will be held once every 2 months. The next will be on the 29th of April with Carriot Astles, and the third one in June. We don't have the date yet. Okay. So today, I'm going to talk about something I consider very important. It is nothing new. It is basic, really. But In my experience, it is often forgotten in professional theater as well as in schools and everywhere. I'm going to talk about the specific language of puppets. So I'm going to share my screen now. But let's go to the beginning. Yes, here we are. Okay, I hope you can all see it. And why is it important? The creators of puppet shows find themselves playing the role of the creator of a world, their own world, the world of the puppet show. And they have to start from scratch. Right up until the 20th century, puppets were mainly used to replace humans. The European puppet theater in the 17th, 18th, and the 19th centuries imitated human theater in every way. In the appearance of the set and costumes, the selection of plays, and in the appearance and behavior of puppets. At that time, there was still no awareness of puppet theater as an art form, especially as an art form with its own specific rules. The audience and the critics were most impressed when the puppets imitated humans as realistically as possible. The audience was entranced by the abilities of puppets to imitate human activities, and puppets were made they could even roll their eyes, cough, and spit, or fight in duels or battles as these pupi siciliani. The 20th century brought a revolutionary change in the understanding of puppets and puppet theater. Right at the beginning of the 20th century, the figurative presentation of humans by puppets was abandoned. Artists became increasingly aware of the artificial character of puppets, emphasizing their puppetness and broadly discovering the artistic charms of materials, which coincided with the presumption of anti-naturalistic plays. Once liberated from imitativeness, puppets increasingly began to speak their own language, emphasizing their artificiality and the fact that they belong to another, different world. Materials for creating puppets were explored, with more and more new materials being introduced, the characteristics of the materials discovered, and their metaphorical expression used. After the new discoveries and new understanding of puppets in the 20th century, there were no longer any givens, nothing accidental, no presumptions, and no excuses. As soon as they appear on the stage, puppets give us a great deal of information, which in drama theater, the actors have to show to us in some other way. Puppets speak by very appearance, their shape, their color, their size, proportions. And also the puppet animation technique, meaning the type of puppets used, and the materials used to make them. In a puppet show, the relationship between humans and the puppet is important, as well as the animator's skills. All this comprises the puppet's means of expression. A few words about the material. The director of a puppet show and the puppet maker face a problem unknown to directors of drama. In drama theater, live theater, the performers, actors, are humans already made of flesh and blood, bones and muscles. This may be very sophisticated, but they're all alike. Puppets, however, may be made of almost anything. Therefore, while a live theater director selects his actors, a puppet maker creates them. As in life, so in art, it is hard to bear so much freedom. So puppet makers often limit themselves, depriving themselves of the limitless freedom offered by puppet theater. It really matters whether the puppet is made of porous polystyrene, heavy untreated wood, light sponge, or fragile paper. All these materials differ in appearance, hardness, flexibility, weight, the ability to be painted, the sounds they emit, their origin and connotations. The flimsiness of paper, the softness of sponge, or the hardness of wood send different messages. Their physical characteristics are also metaphorical. the authors want to achieve close contact and identification between a small child and the puppet, the character and the action, they will choose gentle, soft materials. Puppets made from wool, plush, and other soft materials remind children of their toys at home and invite them to hug them and play with them. Very often, those puppets are made just like stuffed toys, only slightly modified to make it possible to animate them, as shown by the two performances of the same text by Jan Wilkowski, Timoteusz Rimczynski. The interesting confrontation of different materials was well expressed in the production of Hedgehog Janček by the Maribor Puppet Theatre. The main character is a boy who one day turned into a hedgehog, and you can see him on the right. He sets off into the wood in search for food and has various adventures, and, as in every fairy tale, he also meets a princess. The play was directed by Margit Guizin and performed by the puppeteer Elena Volpi, who mixes clay. As you can see, this is the way of animating the puppets. So she mixes clay and creates the characters in front of the audience. Everything is made of clay, twigs, wood, fruit. So when, in that kind of world, made from natural materials, the hedgehog meets the princess, represented by a Barbie doll, it is immediately clear that she comes from some other world. She's somehow artificial and is very probably conceited too. And this is confirmed by the storyline. What is harder than hard wood? Students of drama and puppetry at the Academy of Arts and Culture in Osijek discovered stone. For their master thesis, they wanted to stage a story called The Rainbow, written by Dinko Šimunović, a Croatian author from the beginning of the 20th century. I will tell you a few words about the story, but now I will ask Emmanuel to show us an insert from the show. And Manuel is Unima project coordinator. She is with us today, and without her, it would all be impossible. Thank you very much, Manuel. So I will stop sharing, and you please start the video that we have. Here it is. Okay, so about the story. The main character is a girl growing up in a traditional patriarchy, a very cruel environment limited by rules. Although she was sprightly, happy, playful, which earned her the name Srna, literary roe deer, she was not permitted to run, jump, bathe, go out in the sun, simply because she was a girl. Since boys were allowed to do all those things, Srna's only wish was to become a boy. She heard that this was possible if you ran under the rainbow. When a rainbow appeared in the sky, she ran and ran and ran across the fields until she fell into a lake and drowned. Her desperate parents understood that the tragedy had occurred as a result of her strict upbringing, and they threw themselves in the river. Very sad, very tragic story. And you can see it was done as a combination of live acting and puppets. The students expressed the strictness of the environment and its rules, which, as they say, seem to be carved in stone, by making the characters out of stone. Here you can see them. The entire set was based on natural materials, such as water, clay, and sand. And since the landscape that Šimunović describes is mainly bare, infertile, and rocky, rock was also given both a descriptive and a metaphorical significance. The students did not make the puppets in the form of people, but used two pieces of stone to represent a figure. The larger stone was the body in one of the animator's hands, and the smaller stone the head in the other hand. In addition, the material played a role by its very nature. The sound of the stones banging against one another, their weight, their speed, or slowness of movement, their sharp edges or rounded edges, their hardness, fragility, and size. Small round boys, like you can see here, represented the boys who were allowed to be free, but who had not yet become sharp and hard like the adults. It is interesting that the students made Serna out of stones with sharp edges, by which they wanted to indicate her untimely maturity and knowledge of the difficulties of life, as well as her sharp internal battle with herself and her environment. I will let you watch a little bit more, and then we'll see something quite different. Other materials used for different characters. Here everything is by stone, and now here you can see a figure made of clay. This is another scene and another place, another village. And here, two female characters, Clara and Sava, who lived in an idyllic village where Serna was happy for a brief period because she was allowed to run about freely and jump. So these two female characters were made of clay. The whole village was made of soft materials, branches, soil, and clay. The material indicated the affiliation of the characters with a specific place, emphasizing the idea that place determines character. And psychological characteristics were also assigned. Clara and Sava were softer characters than the hard rock of the Chadatans. And a few seconds more so that you can see how the puppets was animated, because this is a puppet and it is being animated. The actress is telling her story. The character is speaking about her very tragic history. Now she's screaming. Okay. Yes, thank you, Emmanuel. We can go on. So these examples show how important the materials are in a puppet show and how much information can be communicated through the natural characteristic of the material. This means that using the wrong kind of material communicates the wrong message and misunderstandings arise. The audience, adults or children, may not be aware of this, but the impression certainly remains, even on an unconscious level. I will go on with some examples. Here we go. Yeah. These are examples from a workshop with children. So, it shows that children understand that very well. At the puppet workshop, the children did not make the puppets for the production, the Wizard of Oz, did not make all of the puppets from the same materials, which could look different, but being painted and light, that there was some other material. No, whenever it was possible, they used authentic materials. Jute sacks and straw for the scarecrow, tins for the Tin Man. The children who made the Tin Man puppet had the opportunity to feel in their own hands the hardness, rigidity, and coldness of the tin, so that the tactile factor, which the audience misses, was expressed in that way. About the size. The creators of a puppet world decide by themselves what size their characters will be. Puppets may be only a few centimeters tall, but may also rise up several stories high. We would not use gigantic puppets, I hope, to scare little children. Gigantic puppets can really be frightening. They appear threatening, alienated from children, placing them in a position of dependence and frightening them. This one is not frightening. It announces the festival, the pre-festival in Zagreb, but very little children are often afraid of it. For an adult audience, they are often used in political demonstrations and to communicate politically engaged messages to the audience. The best example is the American Bread and Puppet Theater. This is not Bread and Puppet, this is one Zagreb theater group that was on a show for adults dealing with very serious matters. Small puppets, in contrast, arouse a protective instinct in children, sympathy and gentleness. A puppet is a child's friend, and so, at least for a while, it takes the child out of the world of giants, as children see the world of adults, and takes them into a world that is their own size, a world where the inhabitants are smaller than children, where children are superior. That must be a great feeling. Of all puppets, the smallest are finger puppets, so they present the least danger. Therefore, therapists like to begin puppet therapy precisely with finger puppets as the least threatening of all types of puppets, as Wendy Passmore put it. Proportions. Theater puppets, as was explained in the 20th century, are not a copy of live theater, and even less of reality. Nothing in a puppet theater need be realistic, including the proportions. But again, we have to know why. A character can be bigger than others because it is more important. It can be smaller than the others because it is timid, because it feels itself to be unimportant, because the authors of the play want to arouse our sympathy. In nature, lions are bigger than mice. And in some shows, it must be so. The lion has to be bigger than the mouse in Aesop's fable that talks about a small, unimportant, according to the lion, mouse who was to release the king of the animals from the net in which the king had carelessly become entangled. And then we see that a small mouse is important. But in some other story, a mouse might grow bigger, and as its courage grows, it might become bigger than a cat or even a lion. Playing with sizes can also have a therapeutic function. Something the child is afraid of can be made smaller. And even the parts of body can be disproportional in size. For example, the ears in the character that can hear well, the arms if the character has to be strong or lift heavy weights, and so on. Many of you, I'm sure, know the story long, broad, and sharp side. So the long is always very, very tall. Broad is broad, big, if I may say, looks fat. And sharp side usually has very big eyes. And some more examples. Here. This is also a student show. It was the goggles, the overcoat. So in this goggles story, there is a character the author calls an important personage. He's a general, recently promoted to his position, who belittles and shouts at his subordinates to solidify his self-importance. He is so big in his imagined importance, and poor Akaki Akakievich is so frightened of him when he is humbly begging for justice for himself, that the students at the Academy of Art and Culture in Osijek made him much bigger than all the others in their production, at the same time depersonalizing him. So what you see here is that character. Very big and depersonalized. Something else is also very important, and this is the aesthetics of puppets. Colors, shapes, facial expression. The all-powerful nature of puppet makers comes to the fore here. Will they use gentle, muted, pastel shades that have a calming effect? Or will the puppet be painted with bright, aggressive colors? Will the puppet be mainly made with rounded, curved shapes or with sharp angles and edges? The colors and shapes will immediately say more about the character of the puppet than any actor can say in their first appearance on stage. Of course, a bad puppet maker can cause immense dramatic confusion if they fail to understand the character of the puppet correctly or are unable to express that character through the materials used. Types of puppets. This is also very important. Which kind of puppet should be used? Each type of puppet has its own poetics. There is no such thing as a mere puppet. There are glove puppets, marionettes, rod puppets, and so on, and many combinations. And it matters which are used in which production. Glove puppets. Glove puppets are quick, agile, very flexible, lively, precise, sharp in tongue and behavior, and do not tend to make long speeches, but are prone to all kinds of behavior. Traditional glove puppets characters, Punch, Pulcinella, Petrushka, are extremely resourceful, witty, agile, able to get out of every situation, but at the same time they are quite mean, callous, vicious, and cynical. True creatures from hell. The worst of all is Mr. Punch, who you see here. On the other hand, glove puppets can be sweet, gentle friends to the children, small, soft, friendly, poetic, comforting, jolly, and full of humor. Marionettes. The queen of puppets, Marionette, speaks a completely different language. They are poetic, refined, honorable, gracious, slow, calming, distant, ethereal. They are best in static, philosophical, symbolic, mysterious, lyrical productions, operas, and also fairy tales. But marionettes do not always need to be poetic, static, ethereal, and untouchable. Here you see Hamlet. They are capable of jokes and pranks. They are favorites for amusing variety acts involving a large number of comic elements, where they will often appear as strict marionettes. Metaphoric manipulation is particularly important for marionettes. A marionette is always visibly being manipulated. The strings and wires are visible, and we are aware of the fact that there is someone above it directing its movements. It can do all kinds of things. It can fly, swim, jump high, even explode into small pieces and come back together again, but it is always being manipulated. Marionettes symbolize manipulation. An important person is always above them, forcing their movement. This relationship also touches a child. It is good to give a marionette to the child who is shy, timid, introverted, because with a marionette, a child finds himself or herself in the position of the important person, in relation to their puppets in the place of the child. The child is above, and the marionette is obedient, does whatever the child wants it to do. Rod marionettes have a different poetic. Their stiff rods enable the puppets to have direct control of the puppet, so their movements are precise and rapid. The form of animation is also reflected in the repertoire. The true form for rod marionettes is dynamic storytelling, epics, and comic farces, as in Opera dei Pupi. In the contemporary understanding of puppet theater, enriched by a specific Czech sense of humor and ironic distance, these puppets emphasize their own puppetness, clumsiness, and stiffness. Playing with props is not the imitation of human-like actions, but inventive tricks using puppets, and the puppet itself can be transformed from a character into a prop. For example, Instead of the puppet taking a club to beat something or someone, the puppeteer uses the puppet itself with its menacing wire as a club. Rod puppets. Somewhere between the little devil glove puppet and the queen marionette is the Javanese rod puppet. These puppets can be completely imitative and very humanesque, but also completely abstract. They can imitate the human body completely without the floating, twitching movements of marionettes. They can cope very well with realism, but also caricature. They can deal with a lot of text, but they don't need it. They can talk and sing and dance or be quiet. They can cope with pauses, which is unimaginable for an impatient glove puppet. They can present serious topics, tragic and poetic, but they can also be extremely entertaining. We can feel deeply with them, think about major subjects, or laugh, completely relax. Every rod puppet can appear rigid and stiff, like a wooden Mary, as though it swallowed a rod, which is an expression from everyday life, a description used for people. This can also be used in a play, if necessary. These puppets are excellent in presenting characters who are rigid, conceited, distant, or dignified, magnificent in appearance. Tabletop puppets. An important characteristic of tabletop puppets is that the puppet and the animator are on the same level. They are equal. The great attraction of tabletop puppets is their variety. There is a wide range of possibilities. They can be made of various materials, light or heavy, stiff or flexible. They can be small or large. They can be animated in various ways, directly, indirectly, in combination. They can be non-animatable figures or have many movable parts. They can be most simple or the most complicated of all puppets. They can be animated by one animator, or one animator can even animate several puppets, 2 animators, 3 animators, or even more. Table puppets can express an entire range of emotions, every possible life situation, and various relationships with the animator. The dramatic and staging variations are countless. Tabletop puppets can do all of this, which is why they are the masters of European puppet theater today. The problem, however, is when tabletop puppets are used because they are fashionable or because people presume they are simple to animate, without understanding their specific poetic, which in that case would not be expressed. It is not the case in the photo of the Carmen performance that you see, but misunderstandings arise. So the hardest thing, but the only thing that is important, is to give puppets a reason for their existence in the precise form in which they are made, and to give meaning to their movements. Object theater. Object theater gives us many opportunities, but also the possibility of major misunderstandings. Since the beginning of the 20th century, the whole concept of puppets has broadened greatly, and this has opened up new opportunities for creative expressions. Objects from our everyday environment have begun to be recognized as puppets. The practical side of object theater is its easy accessibility and low cost. The stage can also be completely simple, a normal table or a similar surface. However, using any puppet theater technique must be justified, and this includes the use of objects. The creators of a performance must ask themselves the question, and it must be clear to the audience, why these objects? What kind of objects? Every object has specific physical characteristics, the shape, color, size, and the material they are made of. The very shape of the object gives rise to a specific emotion. For example, sharp edges cause restlessness, anxiety, and fear. Round edges usually calm us. The materials from which the objects are made have different appearances, hardness, flexibility, weight, the ability to be painted, and origins, and also the signs they make differ. For this reason, it is important which and what kind of objects are used to communicate specific thoughts, attitudes, or emotions. Contemporary problems with waste disposal, the rise in awareness of threatening heaps of waste, and the need for recycling lead to the wider use of objects and waste materials. Plastic bottles and other forms of non-biodegradable waste are particularly popular. These productions can have a great deal to say if the waste items are not used exclusively because they are cheap and easily accessible, if they are not used to make figurative puppets without taking account of the material used and its original purpose, but if they express specific ideas, thoughts, and attitudes. Shadow theater. Shadow theater is a very special type of theater. It shows a different world, the world of the other side. It is linked with the earliest times, myths, magic, ancient history, where the gods walked the earth and people behaved like gods. Today, Western artists are beginning to understand how shadow theater can express something profound, indescribable, and incomprehensible, better than other forms. Shadow theater has been characterized as refined, beautiful, soft, poetic, lyrical, magically mysterious, mystic, metaphoric, and esoteric. It presents the supernatural, the unreal, the fantastic, illusions, memories, dreams, nightmares, hallucinations, spirits, and abstract concepts which are much more difficult to show using other media. Performances can be serious and extremely traditional, but they can also be pure entertainment, sometimes hilariously funny. Shadows give us a different view of the world and insight into some other reality. They penetrate deep into each person, drawing out our deepest wishes and most hidden thoughts. And that is why they are very, very useful in therapy. Every form of puppet has its particular charm, its specific form of expression. The wealth of the relationship between the puppet and its human is a fundamental question in contemporary puppet theater. The puppet theater revolution of the 20th century removed the screen and put the animator in view. Live actors were introduced onto the stage on an equal footing with the puppets. Work is now beginning to research the various relationships between puppets and humans. Problems arose when showing the animators became a convention without any real internal justification. Children shouldn't be left with the magic of a fairy tale, the presentation of a different world, and not disturbed by what we, the adults, call reality. Let's leave demystification to politics. And here, as always, the most important question is why? Who is that person who appears alongside the puppet and why? What is that person to the puppet, and what is the puppet to them? What is the idea being communicated to the audience? The possibilities of this coexistence of humans and puppets are truly many. As you can see on the screen, not anymore because I want to show you some examples. Just show you some pictures. On the other, here it is again. No. Yeah, okay. So this is an actor, a live actor playing a role and the puppet. And this man here is only an animator, not an actor. And Neville Trenter always plays one role as a live actor and animates several puppets. And here the puppet is built by a person, a human being, and the puppet. And in combination, it's a character. Okay, something similar here. it is something similar to Kuruma Ningyo, as Zlatko Borik in Croatia. He made his own variation of that. And you see that the puppet has only the head and the torso, and one hand and legs are animators' legs. So it's a combination. And the human being and the puppet build a character together. The skill of the puppet maker and the animator is also important, not only to say he's good or he's bad, but it's dramaturgically important. Puppets must be made so they can do what they have to do, whatever the production requires of them. They must not fall apart in front of the audience, unless that is part of the play. And so, for instance, the heads of traditional glove puppets are made of wood. If the puppet represents a quick and agile person or animal, it must not be made so that its movements are stiff or slow. Puppets also communicate a message through the skill of animator. An unskilled animator can cause real confusion during a performance. For example, if, whether by using an inappropriate animation technique or because of the animator's lack of skill, or because the puppet is not made well. So if a boy walks in the same way as a sick old man, a dramatic error occurs, and the audience will have difficulty understanding the play. Or if it is necessary to present a character who is skillful, quick, as mischievous, the animators must not handle the puppet sloppily, because it will then come across as the opposite of what it is supposed to be. So it is very important from the Monkey King, whom you can see here. A child, and probably even any average member of the audience, will not be able to articulate if a puppet is well made or whether the animator is good or bad. But a badly performed play will leave the entirely wrong impression. Every human being and every animal has its own specific way of moving. A snail doesn't fly and bird doesn't crawl. A snail is slow, rabbit is quick. Every child understands that. So, all these animal elements, which the creators of a performance, primarily the director and the puppet maker, have to consider, and which critics must recognize and know how to evaluate, because they are what the audience feels intuitively. And it is also important in education and therapy. Thank you very much. This is what I wanted to share with you today. And now it is time for questions and comments, if you have any.
I see people raising hands.
Okay.
Okay, let's go. You can talk, Ava, Fiorenza, Natalia.
Hello, thank you for your wonderful speech. You highlighted that towards the end the importance of animation of the puppets. So this really something, a field related to movement, really. And I think that another very important thing is the use of the voice. Right. So I don't know if you have something, if you could add something like that, because my field is really the vocal, also through ventriloquism, and I can see how this creates an illusion that maybe you can compare to the shadow puppets. In the sense that the timbre of the voice can and the illusion of the voice, where the voice comes from, can give a feeling that is very important for the play.
Absolutely. And you have already answered your question. you know, I wrote about voice also. I wanted to make this shorter. So yes, very good point. Thank you very much. If ever I'm doing this lecture again, I will put in a voice too. It's more or less the same thing. Okay, when I speak about all these things, I speak about them because I see misunderstanding in some shows, and I want to stress how important it is not to create dramaturgical misunderstandings. So if, as I said about the movement, if a boy who should be quick and run about, if the boy moves as the puppet of the boy moves in the same way as the old man, then misunderstandings arise. And it is also with the voice. It is important to give a puppet a voice that that the audience would feel comes naturally to them. So it's different if it is an adult, if it is an old person, old man, old woman, if it is a very big person, if it is a giant, or if it is, I don't know, a fly or a mouse or something. And you mentioned the shadow theater. In shadow theater, in performances, a human voice can also play the role of music, especially in storytelling, but in performances where you have narration, and the voice and the way of speaking creates the atmosphere, which often comes to the fore in shadow puppet theater. We could speak much more about it. Maybe we will do another webinar about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
There is a question from Josué Musca. Josué Musca? Hello? Okay, I see your microphone is open, Josué Musca. Okay, maybe let's start and try with Carol Sterling.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Livia, can you share a very gratifying experience you've had as a puppeteer and also a challenging experience that you've had as well? Thank you.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, over your years as an artist and puppeteer and teacher, is there a experience that you had either in writing, performing, whatever, for the puppetry audience that was very gratifying and one that was also very difficult, one that was very challenging?
Okay. I'm a teacher and a researcher. I was an amateur puppeteer, so it's not you know, a great experience, but and I cannot maybe if I had thought about it before, that was very gratifying experience when we were going to hospitals and some camps for children and made them happy in very, very difficult situations and very difficult diseases in hospitals, and they were happy for that. for that short period of time. We were sad. We thought, oh, how sad, how tragic, but the children were happy then.
Good.
And also now what I've been doing for almost 30 years now, I think, is a puppetry workshop with children. It's not really a puppetry workshop. It is a workshop where we teach children Croatian
Can you hear me now?
As a second language. And they have different workshops, and one of them is a puppetry workshop. And this is this was I showed you the example of one workshop when we did the Wizard of Oz. And this is something I like very much. When there are children who do not, some of them come without seeing any puppet show at all in all their life. And these things that I was talking about, and then I see are missing even in professional shows, they feel intuitively. As they, when they wanted to make a scarecrow, they used that jute sacks and straw and tins for Tin Man and some other things for other puppets. And also, I can tell you one anecdote. There we did Rumpelstiltskin, and it's a okay, I'm not going to tell you the story, but at the end, that little dwarf is very angry. He's evil, and he's very angry, and it's not the way he wants it to be, so he gets very angry, and I don't know, in the original story, it would be complicated to show it in a puppet show. And so we were thinking how to present. We had a puppet, not yet built, but we were thinking how to make puppets and how to make that puppet of that evil Rumpelstiltskin who gets very angry in the end. And one girl says, can we make his head out of a balloon? And then, poof, and then he is so angry that he explodes of anger. That is an expression. Is there an expression in English? How do you say?
Shock. I don't know.
We say explode from anger. So
Yeah.
she did it. She was aware of this metaphorical use, and she presented it in reality.
Terrific. Terrific.
Yeah, I like that very much.
I'm trying to think of an expression we use. Your exploding head or something like that. Puff.
Puff, yeah.
And then some stuff comes out. Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that we heard a bit from Josue Muska. It was working your micro, so now you can talk. Josue Muska?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I greet you all. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Okay. Lee, I just want to ask you a question, like based on your experience with hospital. Let's talk about the puppet regarding going to the hospital. There's some kid may have a phobia in the different type of characters of puppet. How do you select, like, which one do you know is best for hospital that will always accommodate all the kid environment as well?
Yes, this is a very good question. I'm not an expert, so I suppose there will be webinars that could answer better. I've never met a child who is afraid of puppets, but maybe they are so big that they are frightening, but it's in appearance. But I know there are some children who don't like puppets or afraid of them, maybe. So, you know, when you see it, you just go away or hide the puppet. What we did when I was an amateur puppeteer, we had a show, just a show, and we went there and presented the show. They watched it, and afterwards we were playing with them. I'm not a therapist. I know nothing about it. I suppose it's important that the puppets are small, soft, nice, rounded, you know, all that I talked about of the appearance of the puppets, so that they do not look frightening, and that they maybe remind the children of their toys, and you know, they have the appearance of someone you just want to hug, and then it's very easy to approach the children through that kind of puppet.
Thank you so much.
Okay, then we've got Wendy Passmore.
Yeah. Wendy is someone who could talk more about it.
Okay. Hi, Livija.
Hi.
And hello, everybody. It's tricky because we can't see each other, but anyway,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you for that talk. I was caught by the idea of that you were stressing, which was in intentionality, and I think that's very, very important. You were talking a lot about how you want to match the essence of the character with the script, and the size and the soft and the round and the big and the large and the talking and everything. But I think we also can think about opposites. We can think about making it a bit more nuanced. Perhaps we can think about the inner inner character and the outer appearance, especially in this day and age when we're thinking a lot more about how we look as almost sometimes an opposite of how we are inside. I'm reminded of Matthew Bernier, who said, make sure you present all sorts of materials for kids to build puppets with, like really old and kind of smashed and battered materials as well, not just bright and shiny, because when they're building, they might not feel bright and shiny. So I think it's all good, and you don't end up stereotyping as long as you think intentionally about your choices. And I think you've made that point. I just wanted to bring in the idea that evil is maybe not always evil through and through, but there's a nuanced character there. But what do you think?
Yes, exactly. It all corresponds with what I was saying. And this, what you say, good on the outside and bad on the inside, and vice versa. It's a little bit as I said about that mouse and the lion. And so everything has to convey the idea of the how to say, the creator of the show, or a puppet play. And yes, you're perfectly right.
Yeah, you could have you could play with the idea that an elephant is a very large character but speaks with a really tiny little voice. And play with those opposites, but it has to be intentional and not a mistake.
Exactly. That was that. Yeah.
Thank you, Livija.
Okay, there is Jeff Payton. oui, pardon, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Thank you, Livija, for your talk, and very interesting to me. I've kind of come into, I was once upon a time a puppeteer, but have approached puppetry through the lens of play. And I've had to, in the course of working with educators for many years at this point, I've had to ask the question, what will puppetry look like if it's able to break through the classroom walls as an art and as a media, and how can we get educators reaching for puppets as they might reach for a piece of chalk or a book to make a point. And so in my world, the puppet takes the form of a handheld idea. If you want to talk to a subatomic particle or a stomach or an apple or an emotion, my evolution with puppetry has been to move into paper. Somehow, in my mind, as I've worked with teachers, I've wanted to make the art of puppetry more akin to a media form, as you might pick up a microphone or a telephone. And so I've also, there's been an aspect of this that calls upon the science, because as I began to work with educators and put paper into their hands, sometimes they were reluctant. Many adults are afraid of puppets and afraid of play. So the question is, how do we infiltrate and make this incredible medium something that they can reach for and use almost magically and instantaneously? And so I'm just planting a seed here, because the question is, it's such a powerful medium. It's got so many technical aspects to it and so many trappings that to the casual teacher who has no time really to explore, unless they're in an art program, how do you turn this magical, powerful medium into something that somehow gets past the walls and into the hands of teachers and kids so that the experience can be shared? Just planting a seed here.
Yes, and that's the only thing we can do, because the answer to our question is I don't know. But I do know that we can, and that's what we do actually. We are planting seeds. What we are doing, teaching about it. If there are workshops, for example, what we are doing, the teaching Croatian as a second language, we have different workshops, and so I propose the puppetry workshop. You know, to go to other pores of the society, talk about it, go to schools, as Carol is coming to Croatia, to the faculty of the teachers faculty, and we'll speak more about puppets, because many teachers just do not know about it. The educators, the kindergarten teachers, yes, they do know about puppets, they do use it, but in my country, people feel it's only for little children, and even teachers for the first grades do not use puppets because they are mostly afraid of it. They're afraid that they will not be good at it, that they do not know how to use it. So some of us go around and have workshops with the teachers and try to encourage them to use puppets in school, but also there are at the P festivals, we have workshops for parents and I don't know, grandparents and children and adults, so that they can play with puppets at home. So this is, you know, we are doing all these things. It's probably not enough, but we're doing what we can. And I'm looking forward to your webinar too. You will tell us more about puppets and the play.
Well, this is a wonderful opportunity to explore, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Manish Pashiaru, would you like to ask your question in direct, the question in the chat? Let's see. Waiting.
Hello.
Great.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Am I hearable?
Yeah.
Hello, thank you, Livia, for your webinar. It was looking towards the sector of therapy and art education. So I'm also a puppeteer working in India. So I'm looking for like a application in therapy towards the different age group. How does this work with the
A connection
Yeah.
disappeared.
Yeah.
Chat, but let's wait if he comes back to receive
Maybe
the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a question from Marcia Cohen, waiting for Manish Piashur to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Ah oui, alors attends. Sorry. You couldn't.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. That was just a fantastic talk. And I hope there will be a recording.
Yes.
Will there be? And I hope it will get sent, because I couldn't take as many notes. It was just so rich with your narrative, which was so sensitive. I'm not as familiar with some of the names of many of the European artists, puppeteers. The spelling was complicated. So I didn't know if there was an opportunity for you to send somehow, or even, I don't know how, maybe as a return email, the spelling. I would like to know who they are so I can look them up further. I guess this would be in the more Eastern European, some of the Russian sounding names, all of it, the rock puppet performance.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to spell their names. So I would like to do further research, because everything you showed was just fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Can you send me an email or to there's the address of the Emmanuel? How can we do it?
I can try to, I mean, well, do you put it in the chat, or
maybe if I can suggest, maybe if people are interested to receive some material, maybe we can see we've got the list of people registered, so maybe we can send a message afterwards with the direction of the...
Yes, that would be fantastic. I think having the names, then I know I could look them up and follow their work a little bit better. I teach college and would love to introduce this to college students, because it was so sophisticated and reaches many levels. So thank you again. This was a great way to spend my morning. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Manish Pashiaru, is back. So
let's try.
Yeah.
Thank you. I talk about my question is about the application of puppet therapy towards different age group. How does it work, like with kindergarten, children's, adult and old ages? What are the key factors we have to consider? Question number one is this. Are there any books you want to refer if you suggest us to go through?
As the connection was not very
Yes.
good, maybe just the first question, because I think that the second was more reference in books. How will application of puppets in practice in therapy works with different age groups? What are key factors need to consider while working with kindergarten, teenagers, adults, or all ages?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
It's in the question and answer. If you can click onto that, he has written down his question.
I think that it's more like, do you have specific application regarding different age groups?
Okay.
In the practice of therapy?
Yeah, but who is the application for? It's different.
No, the manner to applicate puppet and the practice in therapy work. How do you, if I understand well?
Yeah, try.
So how does it work?
When you work with puppets, yes,
with different age groups
in therapy.
in therapy.
Okay. Again, I'm not a therapist. We will have more webinars when people who are more experienced in this field will talk and share their experience. But I have found out that when I have this workshop for language learning, language and culture, that the puppets are this integrative factor, that the puppets help pull them all together. It is better if they are of one age group. And then for little children, you can do, I don't know, fairy tales and these things that they are interested in. And the teenagers usually will propose their own themes. And, you know, we do what they want. But it can work with different age groups. I have not a recipe. Sometimes it can be difficult. Sometimes it works. I'm not sure if I help, but this is what I know.
And do you have some reference, some books, or do you want us to send it with a document afterwards, after?
About books, they obviously have to be not in Croatian, but in English. So I suggest go to the EDT Commission page and download the books. There are examples of puppets in kindergarten, in school, therapy, and so on.
There is another end from Jeff Payton.
Thank you so much for your answer. Thank you so much.
Yes, I just wanted to possibly add to the discussion about where puppets can go, where they can fit appropriately. There are so many different corners and learning spaces in hospitals, in private offices where therapists are using this. And so over the course of years, I've tried to test what happens and how it can work. And approaching puppetry as a language, as it is, it's a universal language, and so is play. So the combination of play and specifically knowing that paper can take any form and that the application can be almost instantaneous in the hands of a child as well as the adult, at the very, very least, that's a formula for introducing the medium, as I have done, in the form of a very simple paper hinge. And once that hinge is available and understood, you're just looking at paper shapes and the suggestion of creating a sense or a picture or a caricature of what's happening in the moment. The objective is to elicit communication and to facilitate communication going back and forth. I guess if I were to call it object theater, we'd be getting close to the idea. But what I've tried to do is to step away a little bit, and sometimes a lot, from the idea of theater and move into media, as a media form. And I just think that that's a formula that the gentleman could think about and use in terms of where it can best fit, how it can be best introduced. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any more questions or comments? Maybe you have better answers.
As Nadia Imperio has asked a question.
Would you like to ask a question, Nadia Imperio?
Emmanuel, perhaps you can ask the questions from on behalf of Nadia, Alejandro, and any of the others who are putting questions.
Yeah, I see the end of Carmela Nunes, and I'll take the questions in the chat. Carmela Núñez.
¿Cómo lo hago?
Ajá.
¿Me ha dado la palabra?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear
Hola.
you. Not so, yeah. Hola.
Hola.
Ajá, hablo en español. Buenos días, muchas gracias por la conferencia impartida. Ha sido un placer para nosotros escucharla desde Cuba, aunque hablamos poco inglés. Bueno, hemos mezclado la traducción francés-español y algo hemos sacado de la idea en concreto. Nos ha gustado mucho apreciar la relación estética del material, la realización de las figuras animadas en todos los ejemplos que ha puesto desde nuestra experiencia. también ver la relación activa del titiritero con la figura animada. Nos agrada saber su profunda investigación acerca de esta relación animador, figura, materia del títere. En sí no es tanto una pregunta, sino agradecerle esta conferencia que apreciamos también como creadores desde Cuba. Nos llama la atención que tenemos una obra que son títeres de hielo, y entonces nos aclaraba un poco la idea de compartir también con ustedes cuando tengamos la oportunidad esta experiencia desde Cuba, de un país caluroso donde mezclamos lo que sería el contenido con la forma para llegar a construir títeres de hielo, hablando de la preocupación un poco humana, existencial, y cómo relacionamos entonces cuerpo del actor, figura animada y materia. Era un poco que nos sentimos implicados, muy agradecidos, y es lo que más que una pregunta, es lo que queremos sentirnos identificados con ustedes, que ha sido, con usted en específico, un gran aporte y una gran empatía desde aquí, desde nuestra forma de crear también.
Okay. So more or less, she thanks you very much. She could follow the webinar because there is like a, translation. She said that she's in Cuba, and it was a great pleasure to follow this webinar. She appreciates a lot this proposal to do the relationship between material, puppeteer, and body, and that it makes a lot of echo with their own researchers, with their company that they are working with ice, and in Cuba it's very hot, and this yes, they have got this preoccupation, this interest of mixing actors, body, and material. So there was a really identification with the different examples and proposals you talked about.
Fine, excellent. Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Alejandro Jara Villaseñor. Alejandro, you should, puedes abrir tu micrófono.
Yo desde la Ciudad de México, estoy a nombre de mi profesor, el maestro Jara Villaseñor. Nosotros somos un grupo que se denomina titeroterapia, y la idea en nosotros, yo soy nueva en este arte a partir del estudio, en este arte de la titeroterapia como terapia personal de un trabajo propio. O sea, hemos entendido aquí que para poder llevar nuestras emociones o un espectáculo que hable de las emociones, necesitamos haberlas vivido, sentido y, si es posible, trascendido, para poder llevársela a un público que tal vez necesite hacer esto. De tal suerte que yo que tengo tan poco tiempo, me pregunto, a partir de la experiencia de Livija, que en español se nos dificulta mucho sus nombres, discúlpenme por ello, pero me gustaría mucho que me dijera qué tan efectivo es esto. O sea, el titiritero necesita trabajar con él mismo, con ella misma, para poder hacer un mejor trabajo de titeroterapia para otras personas. Me encantó todo lo que usted dijo fue fantástico, ha sido algo que me ha ilustrado y me abrió un mundo. Pues yo que empiezo a mis 63 años, 62 empecé, Es un mundo fascinante, pero que ahora todavía se amplió más. Pero sí sigo creyendo que es muy importante usarlo como un método de autoterapia, de un trabajo propio para poder llevarlo a más gente. Muchísimas gracias, felicidades, gracias a mi maestro Alejandro Jara por invitarnos. Estoy fascinada, una gran maestra, apenas los conozco, pero usted, maestra, me resulta una excelente maestra y mi espíritu se nutrió con el suave y hermoso compartir de su investigación. Buen día, gracias. ¿Usted cree que necesitemos, por favor, que necesitemos trabajar con nosotros para ser mejores titiriteros?
Okay, so this person is from Mexico. She's part of the group Titiritero Terapia. Okay. She's new in this group, and she heard and understood that you need to wear, which would not be the good word, but you need to kind of wear your emotions to live it, to have the possibility to share it with the public. And she's wondering if the puppeteer himself need to work on if I understood well, work on himself in therapy to be a better, to share in a better manner in this kind of frame, you see. And she's also saying, thank you very much. That's this webinar really opened her a world, opened horizon, and really feed us soul. And she thanks Alejandro to invite the group, that he invites the group working with him.
Very nice, thank you very much. And I'm very happy that you brought up the question of emotions. Of course, I think everybody has to work on themselves. We as human beings, as teachers, as puppeteers, and it is very important that we are sincere in what we do. If we approach children and adults with puppets and otherwise, but if there's puppets, we have to be, we have to know what we want to say. We have to be sympathetic, and then we will find the good way how to approach them and how to get to them, and they will understand us better, and will be able to open and to do all these either educational or therapeutic things that we have to do.
Okay, Nadia Imperio is saying that she's have a very bad connection. She asked a question in the chat about the more effective manner to communicate, more effective and communicative manner working with 12, 13 years old students in class during a workshop. That maybe you answered already.
No, but I don't think it is the matter of puppets. The more important thing is the topic and what they want to do, what they want to say, and then they will express themselves. If you have any puppets at all, that will probably do. Once I had a class with little children, and I brought some puppets. I had some Czech rod marionettes, and they were playing with them, and they were left on the tables, and then the teenagers came in and they asked, what are these? And they started to play. And we usually think that when you have teenagers, they are, they think puppets are for little children, they won't touch them, but they did, and they played with them. Maybe some kind of tabletop puppets will be good, because then they are in control and they do not have to think so much of animation. They can just move the puppets. but sometimes they would like to hide and have the screen and have the puppets above. But I know also that shadow theater would be very, very good for them, intriguing. That would be something else, something new. It involves some technical logic, knowledge, very little, but you know, the light and the screen, they will have to do that, and that creates quite a different atmosphere from everything else. And I've read about an experience of social worker who worked with teenagers from something like, yeah, teenagers 13 to maybe even 18, and all boys, delinquents. So if you say a word puppet to them, they would, I don't know, run away immediately. But she introduced shadow theater to them, and she says she had wonderful results. So maybe you can try that.
Et Julie Desrosiers. No.
I'm going through the questions and answers now. Questions.
Ah, great.
If there is anything else, maybe you have done it already. Names, yes. Yes, Nadia Imperio says, you know, teenage is a challenging age to work with. Yes, it is. They're usually shy and or aggressive, sometimes not very self-confident. They distract themselves quite often. They don't seem interested in things other than technology, etc., etc. This is all true. And it is why not many puppeteers or teachers want to introduce puppets or even work with them in any other way, but it can be very rewarding. And something from an anonymous attendee. We once performed a puppet play for an inner city school group that included different age students. It's about different age. We wrote a play about bullying and how the characters worked it out. It was well received, even by the teens, because it's their problem, they're aware of it, yeah. Wendy, what a question. How do you define puppetry? I don't define it. And when I start teaching, I say I am not going to give a definition of a puppet or a puppetry. No, it would be too wide. And whoever wants some photos or I don't know, suggestion for books, useful books, write to the address of the EDT, email address of the EDT Commission. About puppetry in development, I think Cariad is a very good person to answer this. So who is interested in, we do not have that in my country. Who is interested in that, join the webinar on the 29th of April. So the next webinar in April. Okay, anyone else? Oh, it's 4:40. We said hour and a half. So can we finish? I think so. Yes, okay. Thank you all very much and hope to see you in other webinars. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Livia. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Livia.
Thank you, Livia. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Gracias, gracias.
Gracias.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.